In this video, I want to share with you exactly how you can launch a LinkedIn ad in 2024 profitably. We'll go through everything from how to set up a brand new ad account to creating your first ad campaign with the right targeting, all the way to you launching your actual first ad onto the LinkedIn ad network. Don't worry, this is gonna be super beginner friendly because I know how daunting it can be to stare down the barrel of a confusing and new ad manager and not really knowing what to do. So with that being said, let's get into it. First off, why should you even launch ads on the LinkedIn ad network when you could launch it on Google or Meta? Well, there are a few things. First off, those platforms are significantly more competitive. There are so many people that are trying to run ads on Instagram and Facebook, whereas on LinkedIn, how many people do you even really know that are running ads here? So there's a massive opportunity for SMBs, whether you're an agency owner or a coach or a consultant, to be able to do a lot of amazing prospecting here, and no one's really competing for that same audience. And remember, LinkedIn does have right now 700 million active users and counting. And these people tend to have more money, they're professionals, they're founders, CEOs, people who clearly care about their business and their career, because literally that's the entire point of LinkedIn. Other reasons why LinkedIn specifically is a great ad network is because you get significantly more precise targeting, because you can not only just target basic interests, but you can even go down to the specific industry that they work at, how big their company is, their particular job title and role in their organization. And these are things that other ad networks actually don't give you the granularity on because they don't have access. But LinkedIn knows these things. And finally, if you're an ad buyer, you'll know how annoying it can be to get your ad account shut down for no real reason, and the support team at Facebook or Instagram never really tells you why your ads got shut down. LinkedIn ads support team is amazing, and whenever you actually have a query or you're not sure why something's not working, or even if they flag your ads as being non-compliant, they'll always be willing to have a conversation with you about it so that it's totally transparent and a smooth experience. So overall, if you're selling a premium offer, whether it be in high ticket B2B, SaaS, coaching, consulting, LinkedIn ads is an amazing platform. So let's actually head into my screen share so that you can see exactly how this all works. All right, so the first thing that you need to do before you are able to utilize LinkedIn ads is you obviously have to have a LinkedIn account. So if you haven't already done that, please go ahead and just go to linkedin.com, sign up for a free account, all right? Now, beyond just having a personal LinkedIn profile, you also will need a company LinkedIn profile, and that looks like this. So the reason why you need to have this is because LinkedIn ads do not run from your personal account. It actually needs to connect to a company page first. So set it up, also really easy to do. Now, once you've done both of these things, you want to then go over to this little button here that says advertise, and you're going to want to click on that. And this will actually prompt you to go and open a brand new account specifically for LinkedIn ads. Now, I've already gone and created an account for myself, so I can't show you the account creation process from scratch, but it's very simple. You just need to pretty much sign up as per usual with an email, with your LinkedIn profile. Once it's done, it's gonna look something like this. And the important things that you're gonna have to set up during the account setup process is you're gonna wanna apply a currency of your choice. So for me, it's USD, and you're gonna also wanna then connect that company profile that I talked about earlier. So you just type in your company page name, and then you just kind of go through the drop downs and you find the one that makes sense, and then you click through. What you also want to do before you actually go and create any ads is you want to set up billing, because obviously if you don't have a credit card set up to your account, you're not going to be able to spend on any ads. So just go ahead and do that. You can find that in the account settings section under the billing center. Now, what you're actually seeing right now is the back end of my LinkedIn ad account in the advertising section, and this is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. So for now, just kind of ignore what's happening on the left side of the columns, because I'll go through that a little bit later. I want to first help you explain what's more important, which is the campaign structure. And this is something that I found to be incredibly confusing when I first began. So that's why I wanted to explain it to you in plain English, so that for you, when you start creating your ads, things will just seemingly fall into place a lot more easily. So there are essentially 3 layers involved when it comes to the LinkedIn campaign structures. It's actually quite similar to Facebook ads or Google ads. So if you've ever ran ads there, it should be somewhat familiar, but many people have never run ads anywhere before, and I'm gonna explain this to you as though you are brand new. All right, so the three layers are the campaign groups, the campaigns, and the ads. And the way that it works is that each of these layers are sandwiched in the other layers. So specifically, the campaign groups contain a bunch of campaigns, and then each campaign also can contain many different ads. So let me explain to you every one of these three layers so that you understand what their roles are. Now, I do know that this might feel like it's a bit more complicated than it needs to be, but I promise you that this structure will actually make your life a lot easier when you're in the middle of creating a bunch of campaigns. But obviously with that comes a slightly higher learning curve at the beginning. So bear with me, we'll be teaching this to you no problem. All right, so let's actually start at the bottom layer, the ad layer. And the ad layer is actually what you're normally thinking of when you see an ad. Let me actually click open one of my ads right now so that you can see this is the actual creative, right? This involves the video or the picture or the words that people are actually seeing on their LinkedIn. This would be an ad as well because you can see the promoted sign. And this would be an ad too because once again, you can see the promoted sign. And this can be a video, it could be a text post, it could be whatever it is that you want it to be. And obviously there should be a call to action as well so that your prospects can take some sort of meaningful next step. Now, as I had said before, there are multiple ads that you can then house inside a campaign. So what is a campaign? Well, the reason why the campaign is separate from the ad itself is because the ad is more about just the creative. It's about the videos, about the text, about the images. Whereas the campaign actually establishes some parameters that are really important for the ad, such as how much is your ad spend budget, or who are you targeting, or what is even the objective of the ad in the first place? Is it to try to get conversions, or is it just to get followers or something else? So you're starting to see that the campaigns actually sets the rules upon which the ads are then going to be defined by later. And you can start seeing why this structure is helpful because rather than needing to create a bunch of different ads and then needing to reset the budget or the targeting every single time, you can actually just set that on a single campaign and then you could apply a bunch of ads to that same campaign where you can have 5 different creatives, but they all share the same type of rule set in regards to the budgeting, in regards to the goals, in regards to who you're actually trying to sell to. And then finally, the campaign groups, very similar. It's a container for all the campaigns. So if you do have a bucket of campaigns that seemingly are correlated to each other, then you could kind of put them together in the same campaign group. So an example of this is maybe you want to group all of your top of the funnel ads together into one campaign group, you can do that. Or another example is maybe you want all the North American campaigns to be in one campaign group. So then you stick all of your US and Canadian campaigns into that one single container. And this will all just make it easier for you to organize yourself down the line. So the best analogy that I can use for this overall structure is this. Think about your campaign group almost like an entire company. It's the container for everything else. But then once you move down a layer to the campaign level, you can almost think about them as like senior management, where they actually define the rules and the vision and the budget and all that good stuff. And then you get all the way down to the front line, lower level employees, and they represent the individual ads, where the ads obviously are only functional for that specific thing. They are providing the creative, the messaging, the calls to actions, but they don't set any of the rules necessarily. All right, now I want to go deeper into every one of these layers so that we could actually build a brand new campaign and a set of ads from scratch. And then I'll also go into all the individual features so that you can see how you can replicate it for yourself. So click campaign group here. All right, so you arrive to the create campaign group section here. And first you can just give it a name. So name it whatever you think your campaign group is going to be doing. So for me in this case, I'm going to just say it's primarily targeted towards North America. And maybe this is like a cold audience, top of the funnel campaign. So that's what I'm going to type in here. And then I want to also turn off the group objective. So what you're actually seeing here with the group objective is you're just deciding what the intention of this ad campaign is going to be for. But if you turn it off, it allows you to actually decide this on the campaign level instead of the campaign group level. And that's my preference because it just gives you more control, because you're not going to want every single campaign in your campaign group to have the same specifications as far as objectives are concerned. So just toggle that off and then we'll see this come back when we are in the campaign layer. Now, automatically with the group budget and schedule, it's just gonna say today. Don't worry, just accept it and then click continue. And if you need to change this, you can change it later. All right, so now we have saved it and it now is gonna show up here and you can see North America cold audience. But I'm just gonna toggle it off as we're doing this. As I had said before, now we wanna then go and create the following layer. The following layer, as you will remember, is the campaign layer. So we're gonna check mark just this because we're gonna be specifically operating inside this particular campaign group. We're gonna then say create campaign. And then now it's gonna select that particular campaign group that we had just clicked. And this is where we're gonna be building this brand new campaign. So click next, and then we can name this. So the best thing that I would say you should do is name it after whatever the campaign is gonna be about. The naming convention is always helpful just because at a glance, you wanna be able to see what any individual ad or any individual campaign is doing. So here, let's just describe it, right? Let's say it's gonna be brand awareness. It's gonna be specifically in the US. Maybe we're going after software CEOs under 100 employees. And you can almost see that this gives us direction for how we will be then creating the rest of the campaign. So if it's brand awareness, then we will be clicking here. But obviously you have a lot of different other options. Brand awareness at a high level just means that you're looking to get as many people to just see your ad as possible, not necessarily trying to get them to convert. Whereas if you go all the way to the conversion section, then of course your ad is now set up more so to try to get people to click and go to your website and book a call or take some sort of specific action. I'm not gonna go into all the little differences between each of the different objectives that you can pick in this video, but I will have another video that'll go deeper into that specific topic. So if you wanna see that, then go and please check it out. Now you're gonna wanna toggle off the connected TV function because you don't wanna share your ads when people are streaming LinkedIn on their TV. Not that that really ever happens. Now, with audiences, you can actually pick a saved audience if you have them. But if you're starting off from scratch, you probably haven't saved any audiences. So in this case, you're gonna then just wanna build it from scratch. So United States is the default, but if you wanna hone in and get a little bit more granular, you can actually start adding in other countries. So maybe if you wanna put in Canada, you can do that. You could also pick specific areas inside Canada, and that way you can get more granular. But let's say you wanted to go after everyone in the US, but you did not want to go after someone who was living in, say, Texas. In that case, you can actually just click into that exclude function that I just did, and then you could then exclude Texas. So there we go. Profile language is also something that you can set up. Obviously, English is what I'm going to be going after, but you can do whatever you want. Now, you'll notice that your target audience at the moment is fairly large. And obviously for me, I'm just picking anyone in the US that doesn't live in Texas, so it's big. Generally speaking, we're gonna wanna narrow this down a little bit more, and that's the power of LinkedIn ads because it gives you so much granular control over who it is that you're going after, whether it be based on company size or their role. So take advantage of those functionalities and features. That being said, something that you should be aware of is if you narrow your audience down too much and it becomes very, very small, it makes it much more difficult for LinkedIn to run an ad campaign successfully. And it'll actually become more expensive as well because you're being so selective of the folks that you're willing to have your ads shown to. So let's click narrow here. So go to audience attributes, and then you can pick the obvious things such as demographics, so age, let's say 25 to 34. By the way, I'm not going to be launching this ad campaign for real, so all of these I'm just going to be making up on the fly. And then we can continue to narrow it down further. So this is where we're stacking additional attributes on top of each other. So let's say gender. You're probably not going to want to do anything gender specific unless your product demands it. So let's go back to narrow. Education is interesting. If you're going after people with specific degrees, that could obviously be valuable. I generally speaking don't do that. Job experiences is more relevant for me. Things like job titles are interesting because I could just put in CEO, right? Chief Executive Officer here. I could put in founder, co-founder, founder. You get the idea. There's a lot of things that you could stack. So let's narrow it down even further, stacking additional attributes. So the company is interesting. And this is where you can actually pick which industries you want the companies that they're working for to be included inside. So I did write earlier here in my title that it needs to be software. So this is where I could decide, oh, in what way do I want it to be software? Software development, data security, software, IT, whatever. I'm just gonna put down a couple random ones here because I'm just giving you an example. And then let's narrow it down just one more time where you can actually go into even interests and traits. And that's really cool about LinkedIn because sometimes you'll be able to understand what people are just inherently interested in because LinkedIn has this information based on the groups that you've joined, based on things that you've liked in the past. So here you can actually just find member interests, right? Are they interested in things like arts and entertainment or business and management? Are they interested in specific product things such as computing software, content management systems? Like this might actually make sense given that we're going after software founders, right? But like I said, you can just leave it based on your ideal client profile. Now, I do have a guide that goes deeper into specifically LinkedIn audience targeting. And I really do believe that the reason why LinkedIn ads is so powerful and why you should absolutely use this if you're targeting a B2B audience, it's because of the fact that it just gives you better targeting than any of the other ad platforms out there. Certainly compared to meta ads being Instagram, Facebook, it blows it out of the water as far as how granular you can actually look for your ideal client profile. So this is really something that you should take advantage of. I have another video that goes much deeper into how you can really understand all the different options available to you in regards to LinkedIn audience and targeting. So check that out if you haven't already. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to do is get rid of the enable audience expansion. What happens here is LinkedIn takes the audience that you've essentially decided upon based on your filters, and then it then tries to find other people who are kind of similar to that audience programmatically. I would assume they're using AI. But usually it doesn't do a great job, if we're being honest, and then it ends up driving up the cost of your ad. So it's better to just stick with your exact targeting rather than the audience expansion. Now, by the way, this is where if you wanted to save this audience, you can. Because if you plan on using this audience again and again in the future, then why not just use the exact same audience that you built here rather than needing to remake it every single time? So you do that just by filling out some of these forms here. I'm not gonna do it, but if you think that it makes sense, then go for it. Now, the next thing that we have is the ad format itself. You could, of course, do image plus text, or you could do video plus text, or you can even do a DM, which is directly showing up in someone's inbox. So whichever ad format you like best and that you want to utilize, you're going to be able to pick it here. And then all of the ads that are going to be following under this campaign will then have to abide by those rules. Now, the next thing here is placements. Very simply put, there's two options, LinkedIn and then the LinkedIn's audience network. Now, LinkedIn is what you understand to be, the actual website. So you see it on mobile and you'll see it on your desktop, all the different ads placed directly on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn Audience Network is essentially third-party sites that are not actually LinkedIn, but they are trusted by LinkedIn to also host your ads. I would highly recommend you to turn this off. That's gonna actually increase your cost per 1,000 impressions, and generally speaking, the traffic here is not as good, so just turn it off. All right, so now you have the budget section, and simply put, this daily budget section will be allowing you to set a maximum spend per day on how much this particular campaign can spend. Now, obviously, if you have multiple campaigns, then each of them will have to have their own budget. So you might be spending a lot more than just this daily budget in total. But for an individual campaign, it can spend no more than this, or at least LinkedIn tries to do that. Sometimes it spends a little bit more, but generally speaking, it tries its best to stay underneath the budget. Other options that you can also have is setting a lifetime budget. And the reason why a lifetime budget might be good is because it's almost like a security check. Because in case you just kind of forget that one of your campaigns has been going on, you could eventually realize a year later, it's like, damn, I've been spending $100 a day on this campaign and never even realized. So I would say that the lifetime budget is more of like a security check so that at a certain point, you just freeze your campaigns, and in that way, you're giving yourself a little bit of a safety net in case you just forget about things. You can also just define an end date as well if you want a campaign to be specifically coming to an end on a particular date. Now, I do want to remind you that there can be multiple ads that are placed inside a particular campaign. And we'll actually go into the ad section as well a little bit later, but you might be wondering, okay, if I have, say, one campaign and inside that campaign is like 5 ads that are utilizing all the rules that have been established in the campaign, but how does the budget work, right? So the truth is, the budget that you're seeing here will be allocated across all of the different ads inside the campaign. So let's say your daily budget here is $150, okay? So in this campaign, we can pretend that there might be 3 ads. So what happens is that LinkedIn will need to then separate the $150 across the 3 different ads. And that means the ads are actually fighting amongst each other for the spend. Now, you are not going to be the one who allocates how many dollars each ad will be getting. In fact, LinkedIn will be programmatically figuring that out on their own. And how do they do that? Well, initially, LinkedIn will probably be spending very equal amounts of money on the 3 ads in this campaign. So $50, $50, $50. Once again, if it's 150 split amongst 3 campaigns, the math just makes sense at 50 per campaign. But what's going to happen is over the course of time, some of these ads might perform better than the others. So let's say one ad in particular just performs really, really well. One ad performs kind of average and one ad just kind of sucks. So LinkedIn should be able to understand this and then allocate more spend towards the ad that's performing really well automatically, and then reduce the spend on the ad that's performing really poorly without you needing to do anything. And this is something that we can be appreciative of because LinkedIn is smart enough to be able to understand where the ad dollars really should be going. All right, so now we look at these forecasted results here. This will actually tell you how large the audience size is, and then it'll even give you additional metrics such as which functions are they, or how many years of experience do they typically have. And once again, these are all things that you could have decided upon earlier when you were setting up your targeting parameters, but this is a nice little overview. It'll also give you some sort of projection on how much you'll be spending over the course of certain time parameters. If you recall, I mentioned earlier that you're gonna wanna make sure that your audience is of a certain size. Generally speaking, above 50,000 or even above 100,000 is preferable so that there's just more audience for LinkedIn to choose from. And then you'll also see some projected costs based on the type of audience that you're going after. Now, a metric that you're going to want to keep in mind is CPM. So this is cost per 1,000 impressions. And essentially what it is how much does it cost for 1,000 people to see your ad, right? So the way that LinkedIn works is that there's a lot of factors that will ultimately impact this number. Obviously, how good your ad will impact the number. If your ad really sucks, then it'll actually get more expensive because LinkedIn doesn't want to be running mediocre ads to its audience. But the other thing is the audience itself, because as you can imagine, certain people are more valuable of an audience than others. To give you an example, let's pretend that you're selling to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies in America. That is a very expensive audience because these people have a lot of buying power and a lot of budget. Whereas if you're going after someone who is like newly graduated from college in Eastern Europe, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a cheaper audience because they don't have as much buying power. And there's also just a lot less people vying for their attention. So as you adjust your targeting, these numbers will change, but these numbers are not accurate because they don't take into consideration yet the quality of your ad. Now, I'm not here to try to give you any recommendations on how large your budget should be because this is not necessarily a strategy video, but just so that you know, I began my first approach into LinkedIn ads with a much lower spend. I was really just spending $15 a day. Now, of course, today, because I've been able to optimize my ads, I'm spending almost $100 a day, but it just really depends on your risk profile. Generally speaking though, if you're not willing to even spend more than $1,000 a month at the very, very low end, you probably won't have enough data to be able to make any sort of meaningful movement with your ads. So I would say if you don't have that level of budget, maybe don't do LinkedIn ads quite yet. Okay, so the final section here inside the campaign layer is the conversion tracking. Now, what this essentially means is if you are setting the outcome, the goal of your ad to be someone clicks onto your website and hopefully books a call, that's something that LinkedIn will have a very difficult time tracking because LinkedIn doesn't have visibility into what happens on your website. It only has visibility into what happens on LinkedIn, right? So things like, oh, did they like your LinkedIn ad? That's something that LinkedIn can track no problem. But if the metric that you're trying to track is how many people have in fact gone to my website and actually booked a call, then you'll need to put a little line of code into your website, which will enable LinkedIn to actually then go into your website and peer into the traffic there and be able to measure what has happened. So I'll actually go through that in a little bit more detail in a separate video because it's a little bit of a technical solution, but certainly if you're trying to book sales calls or get people to actually go to your website and opt into some sort of download form using your LinkedIn ads, you need to set up conversion tracking. It's very, very important because without that, you'll have no visibility into whether or not your actual campaigns are working. However, if you recall, the purpose of this campaign was more for brand awareness, so I'm not necessarily trying to get someone to go to my website, so I don't need to worry too much about conversion tracking. I'm not gonna check any of this, and I'm just gonna move on to the next. So then I will click save. Keep in mind, you cannot change your objective and your ad format after you save this. All you can change is your budget and your actual targeting. So just make sure that you are picking the ad format that you actually like and the objective that you actually like, and make sure of it before you move on to the next step. So I'm gonna just click save here, and I'm gonna actually reverse back out so I can show you all of this, okay? So let's go back to the campaign group that we had initially created. So North America, cold audience, top of funnel, remember that's what we made. And then inside this is now just one single campaign, which we just made, right? So if we were to then continue down this process, we would need to start creating the ads. And if you actually look inside this, so just check mark here and look inside, you'll notice that there are no ads. So now that we are ready to move on to the next section, why don't we start to create some ads then? So let's create an ad and put it inside that particular campaign that we had just set up. So a couple different options here. The first option is if you've already launched ads before, you can actually reuse ads that you've created in the past. Don't worry, we're not gonna do this right now because obviously you've never created ads before, so this will not be an option that will exist for you. So let's go to create new ad. And here are some of the options that you have, okay? So recall that I chose the ad format of just being a basic text post with an image. So you can name the ad, I'm just gonna name it test, but obviously give it a little bit more of a descriptive name based on what you're trying to do. Introductory text is what you're gonna actually see in the ad copy. So maybe it's something like, attention, CEOs and founders of software companies. And then whatever else you want to write to try to sell them, you can write here, all right? And obviously, see more will then allow you to unveil the rest of it. This is like a nice little preview that'll show you what the ad will actually look like in front of your audience. And then your destination URL would just be wherever you're sending the traffic. So you could put like a calendar link, you could put this to your website, you could put this to wherever you want. And even inside a campaign which is optimized for brand awareness, you can still attach a destination URL such as this. The difference is if you're doing a brand awareness campaign, it'll not really optimize for people to click. It'll optimize more for people to just see the ad on its own. Whereas if you do have your optimization goal to be consuming and then converting on the ad, in that case, LinkedIn will start actually trying to optimize for people going to your website. So for now, why don't I just put my website down? And then from there, you can pick the image. I'm not gonna actually go ahead and do that because this is obviously just a dummy ad. So there you go. Now the campaign is actually in draft. They will typically recommend that you have multiple ads to improve performance. You don't necessarily have to have 5 ads. I think that might be overkill, especially for your first ad. Just get it out there. Don't be overly worried or trying to be a perfectionist because honestly, media buyers will go through hundreds of iterations of their ads. So best to just get started. Now, if you were to go and click next and you were to click launch, this is the review and launch page. I'm not gonna actually launch this because this is not a real campaign of mine that I would wanna spend money on, but this is one final way for you to then look through all of the different parameters of your ads inside the campaign and more or less make any changes that you need to make before you just go ahead and push it out there. Once you do click launch, it might take a couple hours for LinkedIn to then review these ads because obviously LinkedIn doesn't want any and all ads to go out there. They obviously have to do a little bit of due diligence, make sure that you're not promoting anything that's a scam or dangerous or illegal. But generally speaking, LinkedIn ads are a lot easier to approve than say ads on Instagram or Facebook. And the LinkedIn support chat is also way more helpful. I think Instagram and Facebook support chat is essentially useless and they know pretty much nothing and they are almost never of help. Whereas the LinkedIn chat, they are very responsive and they will answer almost every question that you have to ask them. So pretty much that's it. You do all of these things, you've launched your first LinkedIn ad, and now you are officially a LinkedIn media buyer. Congratulations. And by the way, I do have a lot more guides that are coming down the pipeline that will be specifically helping people learn how to set up their LinkedIn Ads Manager so that they can launch profitable ads as well. So if that is you, go and check those other videos out. So hopefully this was helpful. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it really means a lot to me that the content that I'm creating is actually adding value to you. That being said, if you're curious to learn a bit more about how you can actually scale up your LinkedIn ads, or overall just make your lead generation process more bulletproof, I actually take private clients and I serve them one-on-one so that we can actually build you a custom roadmap together that will allow you to systematize your entire client acquisition process. I've worked with over 150 clients around the world at this point, and a lot of them have been able to scale into the 7 and even 8 figures per year. So if that's something that you're curious about, book a call with me down below, and I will be more than happy to jump on a meeting and give you some personalized recommendations, all right? Thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.